We went from a world of scarcity of raw materials and goods and services, to a world of abundance.
I'd like to welcome Paul Pagnato to the Productivityist podcast. Paul, thanks for joining me today.
My pleasure, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Now, in the interest of full, wait for it, transparency, we've been trying to do this for a while, and we finally made it happen. And I'm excited because when I got this book, and I have the advanced readers edition, the first thing I noticed was the book Transparency Wave: Exponential Changes That Will Transform Our World. Just the quality of it is just the design of it. Like it's a pleasure to peruse. Then you get into it and you're like, and it's something that I haven't looked at before. And that's why I wanted to talk to you about it. When I got the invitation to chat with you, like, I want to know what Paul means by transparency wave and what your thoughts on transparency are. So that's how we'll kick things off. What is a transparency wave, and why was this a book that you needed to get out into the world now?
Transparency has been a theme throughout my life, but I'd like to frame transparency wave and the meaning of it into segments. So I believe that we've had three massive transformations in human society the last 500 years. The first one was the communication period, right? So that was with the advancement of the telephone, the printing press, the railroad, the airplane, the automobile. Humans were able to communicate at levels never, ever before. That brought us into the digital era that we all have been living in up to today. Mm-hmm. The digital era, right? Vint Cerf created the internet in 1969 via ARPANET. It was a U.S. government project for security. Well, that led to text and email and computers as we know it today. Well, advanced digitization, intelligence, machine learning, AI is now bringing us into the third massive wave, which I frame as the transparency wave. And it's not easy, right? So you think back 300 years ago, 200 years ago, people were afraid to get into an airplane. People were afraid to get into a car. People were afraid of those things. And even in the digital era, people feared the internet. They feared creating a website, right? They feared email. They were resistant to that. Texting, they were very resistant to all that. And now it's part of our everyday lives. Well, this is now, we're living it right now with transparency. People are fearing it. And I wrote the book to help people overcome that fear and to have the confidence to lean into it and embrace it. Because at the end of the day, transparency changes everything.
Now, one of the things that I got when I got the book was this, again, a high quality bookmark that talks about the 6 T's of exponential transparency. And I think that the key is, you talk about the transparency way, but let's talk about the exponential portion of it and how that idea of it building one on top of each other. How does one go from transparency to like the exponential elements of it?
Yeah. So let's just first start with the word exponential. Mm-hmm. It's really hard for all of us to wrap our brains around it because we're linear creatures. That's how we survived 1,000 years ago, 200 years ago. When we talk about exponential, if we take 30 linear steps, we're going to walk 30 meters. If we take 30 exponential steps, we go 26 and a half times around the planet. That's exponential. If I give you a penny a day linearly, 1 cent today, another penny tomorrow, another penny the next day, for 31 days, you're going to have 31 cents. If I give you a penny a day exponentially, so 1 cent today, 2 cents tomorrow, 4, 8, 16. If I did that for 31 days, you'll have $10 million. That's exponential. We've entered the exponential era. Industry after industry is growing exponentially. And this is what is happening with the transparency wave. The pace in which it's occurring is exponential. You can't read a magazine or watch news and you hear transparency. this COVID era that we're in has brought transparency and exponential to a whole new level. People now are beginning to understand what exponential really means because of the COVID era, like how fast things were able to spread. So when we talk about exponential, that's what we're talking about.
So let's dive into the 6Ts then. Let's talk about the idea of how to get to that level, because you're right. I mean, I know Darren Hardy's talked about the compound effect when it comes to productivity, and James Clear's talked about like the 1% adjustment, like adding 1% every single day. When it comes to exponential transparency, you talked about the 6Ts. Can we go into those?
So, throughout my career, I spent close to 30 years managing capital, being a wealth advisor. And I've studied companies decade after decade. So I realized that the companies that are growing exponentially, that are having the most success, industry after industry, exhibit a lot or all of these characteristics of transparency. And so I've dissected it, and the scientist in me came out, and there's literally 6 elements of transparency that different companies exhibit. And I'll walk through those real quick. The first one is transparency standards. So the companies like Apple will actually take a step back, and Apple's done this with privacy standards. So you can go on their website and you'll see exactly what their standards are for privacy. Different companies have been transparent about this, and you can actually go to their website and you can see their standards. The second is terms, ridiculously simple customer contract. Uber exemplifies this. Total accountability, having a high quality governance and definable consequences if they don't find it. Whole Foods, John Mackey did an amazing job. He brought the level of accountability to the vendors and suppliers of Whole Foods to a whole new level and brought GMO transparency. Transparent cost is the fourth one, having complete and total cost. Amazon has just been the king here, right? So they have completely demonetized the retail industry through their methodologies. You buy something on Amazon, you know exactly what the cost is, you know exactly what the return policy is. Very, very simple. And then truth. These companies will openly and accurately provide the public data-based truth and facts and communication. Vanguard does a great job of this. You think of Vanguard with the ETFs, exchange traded funds. Jack Bogle created this. You know exactly what the cost is when you purchase an ETF. Vanguard now has more in assets under management than JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and Merrill Lynch combined. This is why. And then trust. Any company that follows these 5 T's will exude trust and brand loyalty in the marketplace. And that's a world that we're in today. You know, we went from a world of scarcity of raw materials and goods and services, to a world of abundance. And what a consumer will rely upon to purchase is that trust and is that brand loyalty. So the companies expressing these 6 characteristics are the ones that are having the most success and growing exponentially.
Okay, so now that we've gone through these, one of the questions that enters my mind is why are people having, or why do organizations, or even people, I guess, why is adopting a transparency mindset a challenging one? Because I think that there are biases that show up. Why is it challenging, or is it challenging? I guess is probably. And then secondly, how does one kind of overcome that challenge and ride that transparency wave for lack of a bet? Well, actually, not for lack, is your expression. So, what are your thoughts on that?
So it is very challenging for people, for humans, to be transparent and embrace this. And the core reason why is fear. So it's embedded in our DNA. So if you think back just a few generations ago, we survived in the bush, hiding from a lion or tiger, by not being transparent, by hiding ourselves, by camouflaging. And now, and particularly the last 5 years, it's being demanded upon us. So people feel very vulnerable they feel that other people may judge us. They may know our weaknesses and our vulnerabilities and take advantage of us. So it's deeply embedded into our DNA not to be transparent. But the positive thing is we are changing, we have to change, and you can change. And so that's another reason why I created these 6 T's is, you need to walk before you run. And if a person or an organization just takes one at a time, take one step at a time, you'll get there. Like it'll be okay. And we'll be able to overcome the fear. It's people running the corporations. It's people running governments. So it's the individuals that fear being vulnerable.
In the book, you've got the quote here. We are our own obstacle, and the only way to move forward is to take action. And obviously, taking action is kind of flying in the face of fear. We live in uncertain times right now, although it's interesting that all times are uncertain in some way, shape, or form. When transparency, the idea of not knowing, and I mean, as I went through this book, there was lots of stuff that I didn't know. And I'm getting more comfortable with saying, you know what, I don't know. Even talking to my kids, say like, like, do you know? I don't know. I don't need to know everything. And I think that's where, maturity plus knowledge equals wisdom. And you kind of get that intersection of knowing that, hey, it's okay not to know things. When it comes to the 6 T's, do they need to be done take action in a particular order, or can you like lean into one that and kind of build out from there? Or does it need to be done in a very specific way? I'm asking this just because I think people need to know where they can start taking action.
Yeah. So if there's any one of these that you feel, you know what, I can do that. Or, our company's halfway there. My team is halfway there on this one. Then do it. Get a win and implement that one. So you can start anywhere. If you're truly at a loss and you just purely want some leadership and guidance, okay, just tell me where to start. Like I'm all in, I'm going to do this. Tell me where to start. I would advise starting with transparency standards. So I would advise taking a step back and look at your industry, look at your company, and what are the standards that you could adhere to and standards that you could create that could take your industry to a whole new level or take your company to a whole new level, and you can hold yourselves accountable to. That's how I think about the hierarchy and the order in which to follow them.
And they kind of snowball after that, right? I would imagine you get momentum and you
totally.
keep moving forward. Okay.
Take it easier and easier. Yeah.
I want to talk about personal transparency a little bit more right now, because there's going to be people listening to this right now who are like, I know that change starts with one person, right? Like, so whether you're in a culture or whether you're running your own business, starts with one person. And in the book, you talk about personal transparency, and you've got obviously you can use the 6 T's, of course, but you also talk about the steps that you need to kind of take. And I think for those people who are listening who want to become more transparent and want to, kind of move forward with this, how do they do it personally? Can we talk about those 6 steps?
You bet. And let me start with a story,
sure,
which will shed so much light on this. So I'm a yogi, and I was at teacher training in Sedona, Arizona, and it was a week-long class, yoga and also personal inquiry. And the teacher, halfway through, this is one of the most physically and mentally demanding things I've ever done. You start at 7 in the morning, you don't get back to your room till 10, 11 o'clock at night. So you're just done every single day. So we're halfway into it. It's on Wednesday. And he pretty much had us all physically shot. Like we were just broken down physically. So now he's ready to get to us mentally, right? So it's at that point, and there's 100 people there. Nobody, knew anybody before arriving, people from all over the world. And he asked everyone to pair up with someone that they hadn't met and created a relationship with the prior 3 days. So you're pairing up with a complete stranger. And he asks you to share with the person, your partner, what is the number one obstacle you're facing? What's the number one issue you're facing in your life, personally, business-wise? What is it? And then to reciprocate, then your partner shares with you. And oh my gosh, these were like so deep. People really opened up. Then he asked for 20 people to come on stage. I didn't have the guts to do it. So I'm in the audience now watching person after person gets up there. And these are people that have been abused, raped, I mean, such malice done to them, ready to leave their partner after 20 years. I mean, just really deep, deep, intense things. My jaw is drowned. I mean, I'm tearing up listening to their stories. Do you know what the amazing thing was? 20 out of 20 people, when they said what the obstacle was, they said it was them. They were the obstacle. They were the problem, regardless of what was inflicted upon them. So, starting with personal transparency, it starts with you. And over 95% of the issues we have are tied to us not letting go, us not acknowledging to ourselves what the real problem is. So that's the first step. And then once you acknowledge what that issue or obstacle is that you're facing, and you have personal transparency, you're being totally, brutally honest with yourself, then it's time to share and share that with others. And then it's like a snowball. And you'll get through whatever obstacle is facing you. It's like magic, but it's so hard. It's so hard. So thank you for bringing this up. And I'm sure a lot of listeners are going to be able to relate to this.
Meal planning is important because it prevents us from being a disappointed wreck when dinner time comes around and we have no clue what to make, or even if we have the ingredients to make the meal. It's a time and a money saver, but most importantly, it frees up valuable brain space. Creating a meal plan prepares us for the week to come and gives us peace of mind that we're organized and can feed ourselves and our family. That's why I do it, and that's why Plan to Eat helps me do it. Your subscription includes access to the Plan to Eat website and fully featured mobile apps on iOS and Android. And Plan to Eat gives you the tools to clip and organize recipes from any website, the ones your family loves and that fit your dietary preferences and needs. And you can create a meal plan around your schedule. Then what happens is the Plan to Eat software automatically creates an organized shopping list based on your plan. So sign up for your free trial at plantoeat.com/timecrafting. That's plantoeat.com/timecrafting. The coupon will be automatically applied to your account and can be used when you're ready to subscribe. It's valid for new customers only. Give Plan to Eat a try today. Okay, we're going to take a break from the podcast now to talk about our sponsors. Get it right every time with Text Expander. You see, Text Expander makes it easy to give your team the right words for every situation. So whether you need to keep legal happy or delight customers with effective answers, you can rest easy knowing your team has it covered. And the latest version of Text Expander even has new and improved statistics reporting for organizations, including the ability to build reports with customizable data ranges for enterprise and individuals so you can track how much time your team saves. I'm a big fan of Text Expander. There's so many things you can do with it. With Text Expander, you can keep your team consistent, accurate, and current. You can share your text and images with the whole staff, and that keeps them on track. Everyone will share the same message and give the same answers to all customer questions. They'll be able to work faster and smarter, and so will you. You can use Text Expander's powerful shortcuts and abbreviations to streamline and speed up everything you type. And you can create powerful snippets to save you time, like I do with my podcast guests and with so many other things, especially through email. And so that all you have to do is really just type in a short abbreviation, and Text Expander does the rest of the typing for you. And you can share those snippets, which I think is really important, especially once you start working with someone who's going to take care of some of those tasks for you. I'm starting to do more and more of that, and Text Expander is a huge ally in helping me do this. Now, I want you to be able to get the most out of Text Expander, which, by the way, is available for Mac, Windows, Chrome, iPhone, iPad. You know, wherever you need to be, Text Expander is there with you. And all you need to do is visit textexpander.com/podcast, and you'll get 20% off your first year. So when you go to that URL, again, it's textexpander.com/podcast. Go to the drop-down, say you heard about Text Expander from me here on the Productivityist podcast, and you'll get 20% off your first year. And it will just be your first year. You will keep going and going. I've been using Text Expander for years and years, and I know you'll get a lot out of it as well. I know I have, and I'm a huge fan, as you can tell. I'm so excited that I get to share the words of Text Expander with you on this episode, and I hope you'll you'll go to that URL. Again, it's textexpander.com/podcast. Get that 20% discount off your first year today. I want to talk about something that I've revamped after revisiting, and I've done it just in time for, as this episode airs, the holiday season. I want to give you a gift. It's the gift of time, and it is a free book in ebook form, both in PDF and EPUB, but also in audiobook form that I've written and had redesigned so that you can get the gift of time for free. I mean, we've redesigned it. We've made it look absolutely beautiful. We've created the audiobook version, which is something that we had not done before. And what the gift of time is really, it's the idea behind it was I wrote it because I wanted to share my thoughts on the value of time and the relationship that I've had with time over the years. That has kind of helped me define that value. It's broken up into 3 parts. You know, I don't want to spoil it for you. It's a free ebook. It's free. Just head over to productivityist.com/free book and you'll get it. You just have to enter your name and email address and you'll get all of them. You'll get the access to the EPUB, which you'll be able to use on your Kindle or your iPad. You'll be able to use on any tablet, really. Your phone, iPhone, any of your devices. You'll also have a PDF, so if you want to just read it in PDF format, you can. But if you want to listen to the book, and there's been a lot of demand for me to release some of my books in audio format, this is the first one. So there you have it. It's free. So head over to productivityist.com/free book and get the gift of time for free today. It's a free gift from me to you. Think of it as a thank you for listening and being part of my audience, my listenership here, not just on the Productivityist podcast, but just keeping up my work in general. So again, head over to productivityist.com/free book and get the gift of time for free today. Another fantastic service, which is more than just one piece of software that I absolutely love, is SetApp. SetApp is the best way to discover new quality apps and get all the tools you need to be successful and productive. It's a subscription for Mac apps. That's what SetApp is. And we're starting to use it with my wife's new MacBook Air. There are a lot of great little apps and big apps that you can get out of SetApp. In fact, there are over 200 high-quality apps into one that you'll find within SetApp. There's an app for almost any task, so you can stay in your flow and finish what you started. SetApp also now allows you to take your projects from the Mac to your phones and your iPads, your iPhones and your iPads. Those ones. I'll let you take you there with support for iOS companion apps for your Mac favorites like Ulysses if you're a writer and you're doing that kind of stuff, or if you want to use more task management stuff like To-Do or Taskheat, they've got you covered there as well. SetApp has a dedicated curation team too, so you're getting the best quality apps from that team. They are only selecting the highest quality apps, so you don't have to search for the best tools anymore. My wife does not want to go through different, websites and go through the App Store and do all that stuff. She just wants to know what she can do with her new computer, with her new MacBook Air, and SetApp has her covered. And there's only one monthly flat fee, and it's a really low price. I'll share with you. I'll share it with you in a second, but it's a great value. You're not going to be paying thousands of dollars for separate licenses, and new apps are being added to SetApp regularly. The updates are free. And all the apps are full-featured pro versions. Just as excited as I was about the last sponsor we talked about, I'm as excited to talk about SetApp as well. It's a huge boon to my productivity. I'm a huge fan. I know you will be as well. So I want you to head on over to setapp.com and try SetApp free for a week. Give it a go. If you like SetApp, plans start at, here's that price, $9.99 per month. 200 plus high-quality apps. Access to all those for less than $10 a month, $9.99 a month. You can't beat that. And you can use SetApp for as long as it's useful for you. And I've been talking about SetApp for a while on this podcast, so you know that it's useful for me. It's still useful for me, and I know it's going to be useful for you as well on an ongoing basis. So head over to setapp.com. That's SETAPP.com today. Get that free trial for a week and put SetApp through the paces. I've done it. I love it. I know you will too. Now let's get back to my conversation with Paul Pagnato here on the Productivityist podcast. One of the things that I enjoyed about going through the book is you use obviously the surfing metaphor, right? Like riding the wave. Mm-hmm. But waves don't come constantly. There's an ebb and a flow, right? And regardless of whether you're a surfer or not, you watch the waves come in. It's, bigger wave, smaller wave, smaller wave. There's an ebb and flow to this book that goes between, and like the softer skills, like finding your purpose and the stuff you just talked about in terms of personal transparency and facing fear and making a plan, but then also some of the, the harder edged stuff, like the grade 8 when it comes to, the idea of dealing with wealth, abundance and things like that. What was that by design as you put this thing together? Like, is that the way you actually number one, is that the way your mind kind of works? You kind of look at both sides. Like, I just found it fascinating the way it kind of just ebbed and flowed.
It is the way that my mind works. Personally, I've lived my life by putting myself in the shoes of other people. So I try to have good EQ. So I try intentionally to be thinking about others, and by putting myself in other people's shoes and how they're thinking and processing, it helps me create solutions for them. And then for myself. So I'm a human just like you and just like, the other 8 billion people on the planet. So we're hardwired the same at the end of the day. And so I try to be very real with myself, with my obstacles and things that I'm facing on a personal level, and then bridge that out to others and bridge that out to corporations. Again, it's people that are running the companies. So the obstacles that companies are having, it's the issue are the people running those companies.
So let's jump back to the 6 T's again and talk about putting them to use. And you have a chapter dedicated to that. Which is the hardest of the 6 T's you think for people to kind of get into or maybe not master, but put into practice on a level that you come away with it going, yes, I did live up to that.
Yeah. I would say the hardest is number 3, accountability. And that's where the fear starts to come in. So there's one thing to create a standard, and then there's another thing to be held accountable to it. And the higher the level of accountability, the more motivation one's going to have to do it. So I'll use my business as an example. So we created 10 standards of transparency for the financial industry. And these are the highest level of standards that exist. We call it true fiduciary. So we take being a fiduciary, we take it 10 steps further. And it is so hard to follow these 10 standards. We actually took those standards and we give that to the SEC, the Securities Exchange Commission. So that is the governing body that governs us. So you talk about a level of accountability. If we don't follow those 10 standards, they can shut us down, go out of business, game over. So it takes a lot of courage to be able to do something like that. So I think accountability is one of the hardest ones because people may fear their business going out of business by being held accountable to a regulator, to an individual with their team. They could fear losing their job. So it's hard, but it's hard to do that. And it's hard to have the courage to do it. So I'd say the accountability piece is the biggest challenge. Yeah. Because of fear.
Right. As I went through the book, and again, speaking of the ebb and flow, what was interesting is not an hour before I chatted with you for this discussion, I talked with Marta Zaraska, who wrote Growing Young, and she talks about longevity and some of the science behind it. And I'll link to that episode in the show notes here. But you talk about that as well, the idea of longevity. And there's a section where you talk about the common traits of centenarians and things like that. But I want to talk about the idea of longevity within the context of the transparency wave. What's the connection there?
We are on the cusp. We are living right now through the genomic revolution. And I passionately believe, as well as Ray Kurzweil, Peter Diamandis, many, many others, that majority, if not all, human diseases will be cured in the next decade through genomics, right? The COVID piece, the era that we're in right now, the top 100 vaccine cures that are being worked on, the ones that have the highest probability of success, every single one of them is genomic based. We have never in our history had a vaccine created genomic based using messenger RNA and things like that. So this is happening. This is going down. This is real. All right. We have millions of babies born worldwide every single year that have genomic defects. Genomic defects that can be cured in the hospital before the baby leaves. Yet you ask and question and survey 9 out of 10 moms. Do you want your baby's DNA taken and tested to ensure for genomic defects? But the hospital is going to need to maintain and keep that DNA. 9 out of 10, they're going to say no. And it's because of fear.
Right.
They fear what that DNA how that DNA can be used against them. So this ties into longevity. So there's many aspects of longevity. The genetics, which is our software, our human software, is a big part of it. So we're getting close to this intersection. And I just wanted to talk to people about it and hopefully give people confidence that this is a beautiful thing. We're actually going to save millions of lives through this genomic testing.
It's a hardware. It's hardware and software.
Ultimate transparency for a human being. I mean, you're talking about being vulnerable and totally transparent. There it is.
Well, it is. It's like you mentioned. It's like like we're the hardware and the software. Like there's a coalescence there, right? Where you can go and say, okay, well, let me diagnose the problem, and you're getting it right out of the gate. And you're right. It is fear, because how are you going to use this thing? What are you going to? Fear is such a huge driver. How do you? Personally, we'll shift gears a little bit for a second. How do you push past fear? Like, what tactics do you put in place? Obviously, there's tactics. The tactics, a lot of them are in this book. But is there something in particular that you say, like you got to catch yourself with it? Fear is something that we all face. It's like it's a human condition. It's something that you never can fully escape. And you're talking to a guy right now who has Green Lantern paraphernalia all throughout his office. So that I've studied the idea of fear and will. That's how I combat it. I look at this Green Lantern stuff, go, and I say the oath or whatever I need to do to move forward. But how do you do it?
For me, it's embracing, I know this may sound crazy to listeners, but embracing failure. So having a maniacal focus on experimenting and trying different things and embracing success is failure turned inside out. So I know that the more I fail fast, the quicker I'm going to get to where I need to go. And to fail is not fun. It sucks, right? Nobody likes to fail at anything. We all want to be winners. We all like that feeling of winning. But the reality is you win, you get that success by failing. And we need to let go. We have to overcome the fear of failure, and we have to try, and we have to experiment. So 99% of the time when we do that, when we experiment and we try something and we fail, sometimes it stings a little bit more than others. We get over it. Every day is a new day. We wake up the next day and it's going to be okay. So as long as we're always doing the right things and we always have really good intentions and we're seeking the flourishing of others, it's going to be okay. So that's how I've been able to let go, overcome, experiment, deal and accept failure, and be able to do these 6 standards and other things.
Well, it seems to me too. The other thing is, as you're talking, the idea of using, the transparency, like your 6 standard, like all the stuff that you've got, allows you to not get caught up in the paralysis through analysis situation, right? Because that's a big problem too. I'll give you a personal example from yesterday. I'm new to building things with my hands. If you had talked to me even before the COVID-19 season that we're in right now, and you said, hey, guess what, Mike, you're going to be gardening and making things out of wood by the time this thing's over. I'm like, yeah, whatever, you're crazy. not that I am doing both of those things. And I built, my daughter wanted to have a lawnmower shed built because of where our lawnmower was. It was a little bit difficult to get to. And I said, gauntlet thrown, mission accepted. And so I started to build it out of materials we already had. And I look at it and I'm proud of what the shell that it is. But I know that there's some people that would look at it and go, right? Because it's not great. But I already know what I'm going to do to make it. I've got the shell there. I took action. I've got the shell there. I'm going to make it look nice and pretty. You won't see the inner shell, the slight imperfections, but you'll see the nice, linseed oil stained wood that's on the outside. And it'll look really nice. If you open it up, you're like, oh, he kind of cobbled this thing together. And I think that that's the idea of you don't get to see when it comes to failures, but and even the success stories, what happens beneath the surface. You don't get to see the behind the scenes. You just get to see the polished outcomes. And I think that often when you get stuck analyzing, you get this paralyzing, you don't even get started on the structure or the framework. You just don't get started.
Yeah, that's so true. So another way that I think about that is there's one of the beautiful things about humans is we can visualize. So we can visualize and see a rainbow in the distant future. And that's real. It's very real to us. And we can walk closer and closer and closer to it. But the reality is we'll never, ever get to it. Mm-hmm. That's called the gap, right? So our mind has this ideal, but then there's reality. And what's in between the ideal and reality is the gap. And the way we overcome the gap is through positive focuses. So it's through the lens in which we're looking. And you said it beautifully. So you built this dollhouse, and it looks great to you, and it's beautiful. So you're having a positive focus, and that's going to give you the encouragement to go back at it. And it's going to give you the encouragement to build something else. So a trick that one of my coaches taught me was as simple as, each night before you go to bed, write down, there's something about writing it down, goes deeper into the subconscious, write down the 5 positive things that occurred that day, and then how you're going to make further progress the next day. And if you do that for 21 days, it's like magic, like a switch goes on in your mind, and you'll start to have more confidence and more courage, and you'll start to be thinking positive. Yeah.
Paul, this has been a great conversation. I want to wrap up by leaving the listener with one simple, single action they can take to start riding the transparency wave today. What can they do?
Just take a step back, spend a few minutes on what is the number one obstacle facing you today in your personal life, in your professional life, in your career. What is it? And be transparent with yourself. Be brutally honest with yourself on what it is and what the problem is. And then share that with 2 or 3 people, 2 or 3 loved ones, close friends or partners of yours. And it can end up changing your life.
Paul, this has been a great chat today. I really appreciate it. The book's called Transparency Wave, Exponential Changes That Will Transform Our World. Where can people pick up the book and keep up with your work?
It is available on Amazon. So if you just Google transparencywave.com, you'll find lots of resources and ways to be able to obtain it. Go right to our website and purchase it through the website. So very readily be available. Hard copy, Audible, Kindle, whatever works for you.
Again, thanks so much today for joining me on the Productivityist podcast, Paul.
Thank you, Mike.